hello, and welcome. I'm Deirdre Vervo, and you're here at Let's Talk Live. Let's Talk Seniors, Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So today we have a very special guest, Elena Goggin. She is the Director of Life Care Planning, a certified elder care coordinator with 30 plus years experience, and she helps with life care planning. You don't know what you don't know. You have no idea what options you may have out there for you and what's available. Ellen helps you make a plan. She navigates the healthcare challenges and takes the overwhelm out of it. She is dedicated to helping seniors live their best lives. And she is here to answer and help you ask the tough questions to your aging loved ones. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Ms. Elena Goggin. Hi, Elena. How are you?
Great, Deirdre. How are you?
Awesome. So, first, I want to thank you for helping a few of my good friends. And they had some tough situations. And I know one is super duper happy where she is, and the other you're working on, and they're very, very happy with your services. So I just want to say thank you from me to you personally for that. Um, and I know that I had this experience with my own father in law. He didn't want to talk about death or funeral or a will or an estate plan or what to do when he was sick, and he was sick. And it was very tough. So I know you're here to tell us how to ask the tough questions, how to approach your loved one. So tell us a little bit about your background first, and then what you're going to be telling us about.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, first of all, for welcoming me onto your show today. And I'm happy to be here, just imparting whatever wisdom I can and encouraging everyone to ask those tough questions or welcome in the conversation. And hopefully, after we complete today, they're going to feel inspired and not fearful, right? So, a little bit about me. My background is legal, insurance, financial. I am not a lawyer, and I gave up my financial licenses. The work that we do at Elder Life Care Planning supports people through the aging process while they're at home, all the way through end of life planning, which, as you know, in the business that you're in, can be quite daunting, especially when we all have this dream of keeping mom home and dad, exactly where he wants to be. Um, but sometimes those supports are not ideal. Sometimes we can and we can't do that. So we help with care coordination, care management, and advocacy. We help find the best solution by assessing both their financial and their physical, cognitive, and socio-economical background, or I should say biosocial background. And then we offer them solutions that fit their unique needs because we're not all the same. It's not a cutter operation. Um, and then we give them the education about all those choices. Um, we help them facilitate a very good care plan that fits for them now. And we talk about the future planning moving forward, what to plan for next. And we make sure that the next situation isn't a crisis if today is a crisis, right? And we do that all the way through in welcoming people into learning a little bit more, like just like home. I mean, what an awesome, awesome resource for them. And um, as well as any other rental opportunities or buy in opportunities. And unfortunately, we do have to have those conversations about when skilled care is needed and that's appropriate and setting them up for that so that they're not in an emergency. And you and I know what that emergency feels like by dealing
Hmm.
with our clients. So that's a little bit about me and what we
Yeah,
do.
that's great. And I know many people probably come to you kind of in an emergency situation. Their parent fell, or they've gone to visit them after COVID and don't know what to do with them because they're like, oh my gosh, they just realized they cannot really cope on their own anymore. And what, I mean, you always say that people should come to you earlier on, but I guess they're not as motivated. How do you have the hard conversations with your parents, with your in-laws, with your maybe husband or wife that's suffering? I mean, if they don't want to talk about it? Like, what do you do?
So I think that most people don't want to talk about the hard things because they feel as though they're going to be talking about death and dying. What if it wasn't about death and dying? What if it was a life-giving conversation?
Mm,
And many of the people that come to me, their children are bringing them in because they're afraid and they don't know what their parents want to do and what is out there for them and how to navigate that all. Once their parents understand that they have an advocate in us and
mhm.
we work directly for them, and the conversations that we're going to be having are geared on what they want, what they can afford, and keeping them in a life giving situation, for as long as possible. And we all know that proactive planning, um, how do I want to say this respectfully? For those of us that have proactively planned for anything in our life, have saved money and
Mhm.
felt that ease of the peace of mind that you get because now you've already taken care of that. And for those of us, and all of us had that situation where something could potentially have blindsided us, or we knew we had to get to something but weren't quite ready yet, it cost us more. And it was
Yeah.
harder to do, right? It was
And
harder to do in a crisis.
yeah, and I also think it keeps you in charge so you don't feel like you're out of charge. And I love your take on it. Instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to talk about dying in my funeral, it's more
Yep.
about how you want to live as you get older, not like dying in your funeral necessarily. But as I said to my mom, and maybe this wasn't the kindest, but I was telling her for about 5 years, because she's in her 80s, Mom, like, you should pick out a place you want to live next. So we're not doing it in case, you're in a crisis, like if you fall and break a hip or something, when my father passed. And maybe that wasn't the kindest, but I was like, I wanted her to make a plan, not just, stay in her house and think that was just, that could have been the plan, but, we would need to fix up her house downstairs so she could live there, right? So get her thinking.
Yeah. And I think, to piggyback off of that, um, the idea would be to keep people exactly where they want to be for as long as possible. And when we do the plan and we address all the things that they may not know that they need to do, or we have those potentially hard conversations about maybe moving a bedroom downstairs as opposed to upstairs, there's a good possibility that they could age in place at home.
Mhm, mhm,
But the same thing for car insurance and house insurance and other types of health insurance, um, or long term care insurance. We're buying something hoping we never have to use it. And if we do, we have the peace of mind of knowing that we've already discussed it.
mhm.
We've
Yeah.
imparted wisdom onto our loved ones in security, knowing that there is a plan and they
Mhm,
know that they can step in. And not only is there a plan for their mom or their dad or their spouse, quite frankly, um, it could also be um, there's their opinion is in there, their choices are there, and they have, like you said before, the control over that.
mhm. So if you have a parent that doesn't want to talk about it, how do you approach them? And how do you get them to, I don't know, put things in writing or jot things down, even about basically how I talked to my mom was she didn't want to talk about like burial or anything. So I said, okay, then I'm just going to do X. And she's like, oh no, I don't want that. I'm like, okay. I was doing a process of elimination because she didn't really want to talk about it. So I told her what I was going to do. And then I figured out, you know, what to do with her, right? What her wishes that way. But what is a way to get somebody to open up about it when they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm 90 and you want to talk about my end of life and, I'm trying to live here. What do you do?
So I learned this, like, I would say eons ago. I was the oldest of three kids and first generation Italian. So if my parents ever took a little teeny vacation or a drive across the state of Connecticut, quite frankly, my mom would take me into their bedroom, the top drawer of my father's dresser, and
Well,
she would say, okay, this is that, this is this. And she did it all the time.
Mhm.
So I learned from her how important it was to know where things are and planning for those things. We still have those conversations today. And quite frankly, it's flipped now. Now I say to my mom, can we please have a conversation about what's going to happen when the money
Mhm.
starts to run out, right? You hear it. I want to talk about the choices. And she's like, please don't make me sell the house. I'm like, okay, that's not the conversation, right? That is totally not the conversation. But I want to have a conversation with you about what all the options are. And I want you to understand them so you can help me help you choose the right one so that we're not in an emergency and then you have no choice. And
Mm.
when I mentioned it about having choices and providing her the opportunity to become part of the plan and letting her know that I was there advocating for her, game changer. They want
Mm.
choices because they start to feel, as we all do, you know, they're backed into a corner, and that's a horrible feeling. And
They don't want to feel like their kids are going to like just find a nursing home for them and pop them in there. They want to know that they're part of the plan and that they could do what they want for as long as they want.
in addition to that, I think that they don't want to give up control, Deirdre. And
Mm.
I don't blame them. Like I want to be as feisty as my mom when I'm her age, right? I want to be part of the planning aspect of it.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think choices are good. Information is powerful. So if you bring them life-giving information, I found somebody that can help us review the aging in place process and help us make sure that you can stay home and then protect us and put a plan in place should anything awful happen that you're going to be part of, Mom. We're going to do what you want to happen.
What about when you have like I buy houses and I flip houses and I buy from a lot of elderly people and I become like friends with them until they're ready to sell, basically. And I, in particular, have a man that's almost 90 and he has no kids. And I've said to him, you need to assign like one of your niece or nephews as your healthcare proxy, as your power of attorney. And I'm like, it's like he doesn't want to deal with it. So and I'm like, you're going to make it super duper hard for anybody to help you here because you need, a family member to help. How do you talk to somebody like about even just having, I don't know, what are the questions they need, like healthcare proxy, a power of attorney? Only if they get sick, they don't want to think that their kids are going to come in and sell their house onto them. Like, what kind of things can you do to make them feel more comfortable about things that they need to do or have in just the initial planning stage?
So, have a broad conversation. I'm not an attorney and I know enough about legal documents to be able to let you know how to have that first conversation. So, the first thing you want to say is there are legal documents that are put into place where nobody could act unless they can't act for themselves. So, basically, in an emergency, or when that person becomes completely incapacitated, and only then can the power of attorney step into place. One,
Okay.
two, same thing with the healthcare directive, right? Um,
Hmm.
there's no need for it unless there's an emergency, and the person cannot speak for themselves. And then the final thing I'd like to say is I hate scare tactics. I just don't feel that they're the you know the best foot forward. And the truth of the matter is, when you don't have your legal affairs in order and your financial affairs in order, and you don't have a plan for that, the state of Connecticut swoops in and they take over. They assign a
Well,
random conservator that gets paid this much money
yeah.
to manage you and your affairs. So
Mhm.
if you don't want that to happen, then I would get with an attorney. And there are attorneys that have stepped in. They have to have a good relationship with the person um, as power of attorney, not healthcare directive,
Mhm, mhm.
healthcare representative, but definitely as power of attorney. That wouldn't be my first choice for them. My first choice would be picking somebody close. It could be a friend, that has to work in
Right.
conjunction with an attorney, a respected legal professional, not your family attorney, not the real estate attorney, not the guy that you call to manage this thing or that thing, but an
Right.
certified elder law attorney.
An elder law attorney. So basically, what you're saying is if you don't have a plan, the state will step
Mhm.
in and make their own plan for you, put a
Yes, they will.
conservator on that is going to cost a lot of money and not know you. So they're not necessarily going to have your best interest at heart. Not that they're not, but
Well, they
they don't
won't
know
know
you.
your best interest. Yeah, yeah. They're not going to
And you
have,
only get
you know,
that person if you can't talk for yourself. So they're just making decisions based on just not knowing you. So that's
yes,
not fun.
agreed.
So that's a great reason to, make a plan.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, yes.
So now, how do people start with you? Do they usually come to you as husband, wife, or one person has passed, or when should they come to you?
So I love bringing families together. So I often work with not just the individual, but the spouses together, right? If there's a healthy spouse and a sick spouse, and the sick spouse can't attend, I'm happy to work with the healthy spouse. And I always welcome children. I think it's
Mm,
so important for children to be involved because at some point they're going to be picking up where their parents left off.
mhm,
And I think anybody that's aging, I'm going to take that back. I think all of us need a partner when we're going through something and a
mhm,
second pair of ears. I was just talking to my son in law about his grandma, and she was going to the doctor with her mom. And my son
mm,
in law was saying to me, Mom, I think that it's really important for my mom to go. And I might actually be there on the phone as well to be a third set of ears, right? Just to listen in, just if my mother forgets to ask this question, because it's important for everybody to be supporting each other.
mhm.
In a
I
family, this,
I 100% agree. You need an advocate, especially when you're vulnerable and
yep,
you're just agreeing to things like that. I remember when my dad died and my mother was just agreeing to everything the funeral person said, like, sure, I'll take the limo. I'm like, he's being cremated and we live a mile away from the church. Like, you don't really
right,
need to do that. Like, she was, when you're in a vulnerable situation, when you're sick or elderly, yeah, you need an advocate for you. You definitely need somebody that's going to bounce some ideas off you instead of just agreeing to everything you're not sure of. Hmm.
I agree. And there's so many different types of advocates here and so many different types of people that work in our industry that can support you, right? So I want to talk about that for a half a minute. When you purchase services from us and maybe a handful of other people in the state of Connecticut, we work for you, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to having skin in the game working where somebody says, you don't have to pay me, but they have skin in the game with all these other partners, right?
Right.
For me, it's really important for the elder and their family to know that I'm in a relationship with the elder. That will be my client, even if I'm talking to the daughter or the son. I am
Hmm.
in a conversation with my proactive seniors, and I welcome conversations with their family, but it's always for the seniors or the elders' benefit. And that is who the plan is for, and that is who I work for. I work for them.
So, Elena, if somebody is married, because I get this question often, like when you have a spouse that maybe needs, is getting sickly, and the other spouse is healthy and they own homes and they own community property, would they be coming to you or going to an elder care attorney first or doing both, or how does it work?
Great, good question. So we dovetail with attorneys and financial advisors all the time, as well as our professional resources like yourself. Um, where their work stops, ours begins. So, for instance, I don't do legal documents, and it's important to have the right ones done. I cannot tell you how many times people have called me up and say, "I'm going to start with the attorney. I'll call you when I need you." Then they call me in a crisis, never proactive. They got their legal documents done, but they went to a family attorney because they're best friends, and so
Yeah.
and they paid for them, and they have to be redone.
Mm,
So I always recommend coming to us first. If you love us and we are a good support for you and we can come up with a plan moving forward, we have all the financial, excuse me, we have all the financial, legal, and other resources to be able to provide you for you to choose from. And we work collaboratively as a team
Yeah,
for your benefit, which is way better than you trying to navigate it on your own, right? And
that
you
makes
have a,
a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that
yeah,
makes a lot of sense because I've
yeah.
seen people go just in real estate transactions. People go to their like divorce attorney, do real estate, or that's not how you do it, And
No, you need
you,
a couple
if they,
representative.
yeah, but if they start with you, you know the
Mhm.
end goal, which their lawyer might not know, health issues and their end goal. So they might just be giving them a cookie cutter, here's an estate plan, but you need something more specific to their health needs is what you're looking at, right?
Yeah, and also they're aging. So we discuss aging scenarios. Like this is what it looks like here. I can't tell you how many times I have taken for granted the knowledge that I have learned over the years, and you have to feel the same way. You're like, you just know it. But when a family comes to you and they're working with you, and you're in the process of reviewing all the options and educating them, they have really exceptional questions, and they're like sponges because
Mm,
they don't know the information. And that was the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about my biggest fear in life is not knowing what I don't know. And I love imparting that wisdom to our clients who often say all the time, what are people doing if they don't have this? And I'm like, I
yeah.
know. So I have to get better at telling people it's important.
No, they're floundering because we don't know what we don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we have no idea what our options are if we don't know what our options are, right?
Right.
So you've been doing this for 30 years and then you keep accumulating more information. So
Mhm.
you know exactly where everybody should be and what they should be doing. How do people find you? Like until I started in the healthcare industry, I never knew elder life care planning people existed. Like, how do people find you? How do you give talks? I mean, what I know they could find you, looking you up on the website, but if you didn't know this was a thing, how can somebody find you?
Deirdre, that's such a good question. And it worries me because I have been blessed with, you know, get, getting referrals from all of our professional resources. So I have to do a better job getting out there. And so I'm just going to say I'm in the Senior Blue Book, which is down in Fairfield County and then coming up through Middlesex County. So they can find me there. We do talks, Facebook Lives. We will do that. We do workshops here. I'm happy to welcome people in, and you and I could work collaboratively on an education series, which I think would serve both your community and all communities together. So I'm going to say I'm not the best about getting the word out, and I know I have to get better because more and more people are asking for support, and I know it's a it's an important need to be filled more now than ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if people, know of you as a resource kind of thing, So I know you advertise in the Blue Book and all this kind of stuff, but um, it doesn't seem to me, it doesn't seem to be a well-known resource,
I
So
would agree.
to get you on TV, I have a connection, by the way. So
Okay.
we'll talk off the air. I just
Okay.
think it needs to be more out there so people know there is a resource, you know.
I guess I'm going to take that as a marching order. So I'm in the process of working on a few things, and I promise you, you will see more and more of me, Deirdre. And I welcome suggestions from your audience if they feel that there's an untapped resource down in your area or any area in the state of Connecticut, and they would like to hear more from me. Chime in, and I will be there.
Okay, that sounds great. So,
Mhm.
Elena, you are an amazing resource. And I mean, just with my friend, just like he was texting me as I'm talking to you, and I have to read you what he just said about Joe, because I was texting him. Elena is super thorough and knows her stuff. We have every confidence in her ability. That's what he was just
Oh,
texting me about you. Well, I said, "Oh, I'm going to be talking to Elena." And he's like, "Oh, say hello and tell her we love
yeah.
her." So
Great.
thank you so much. And
Mhm.
is any seniors out there or families that are interested and are worried about what to do with their parent, or if their parent is not, willing to have these hard conversations? I think Ellen has given us great advice, not to make it about death and dying, but about living your best life as you age and your options, giving them their options, not telling them, got to leave this house, too many stairs. No, give them their
Yeah.
options. They want to move downstairs or put in a chairlift or whatever it is, move to a one level house. Um, Giving them their options is keeping them in control and honoring their wishes. So,
Right.
Elena, great job. Thank you so much for being with us today. And Elder Care Planning, if you want to reach Elena, it's 860-664-5695. She works the whole state of Connecticut, knows her stuff, and has helped hundreds and hundreds of families. So, thank you again. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you, Deirdre.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Mhm.
Don't go. Well, thank you so much. What a great resource. And I really do think that elder life care planning needs to be a wider known resource, because so many people are lost. Because how do you know this is the first time? If you have elderly parents, is the first time you're dealing with this on many occasions. So, Elena, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm Deirdre Vervo saying thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.